Before we dive into today's episode, I've got some exciting news. FutureLab, Australia's first longevity supplement range, is now available at Chemist Warehouse and leading health food stores. Now, this is a lot more than a regular supplement range. It really is a mission. And the experts at FutureLab have developed formulas designed to support your well-being today, tomorrow, and beyond. Welcome to FutureLab, where we explore the cutting edge of health span. I'm Danny Urbinder, and with me is my co-host, Dr. Denise Finesse.
Hello, everyone.
And Trevor Hendy.
G'day, mate.
Now,
so that's very Australian, isn't it? G'day, mate. Just to remind us that we're in Australia.
Yes.
Now, we are focusing on a series in Health Span, in FutureLab, where we're going to do a life mastery series where we speak to those people that have had enormous successes in aspects of their lives. And this really feeds into this idea.
I was going to say, we've listened to the listeners.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And what we're finding is people want information and really distilled information. So we've got a masterclass series that we're going to bring the best people in the best areas and give masterclasses so people can really, our listeners can take away exactly what they want.
That's the masterclass. And then we've got our life mastery.
People that have walked journeys and been through all the trials and tribulations and that can share
so
things
one is going to be sort of focusing on, I suppose, more the science or the technical side, and the other is actually going to be, this is how people live it in practice. And today, being our first, what better person to actually have in our life mastery session than Mr. Trevor Hendy himself.
And just before you kick off, Trev, I also wanted to clarify with those masterclasses, not just the science too, but actually the action steps. We're going to have some soon about exercise, what you can actually do. So the science, what backs it up, but then also the actions. Absolutely. But then today being our first life mastery session, we're going to hear about the challenges, what you've been through and how we can all learn from that as well.
I'll vulnerably share some of my story, and there'll be a little bit of things that people can put into play
as well. Yeah. I mean, look, just feeding into everything that we just said, just looking at your story, Trevor, I mean, I know that we are really starting to get to know each other now, but I mean, just looking at that on paper, it's very, very impressive. I mean, you have had really such a successful life, not just in sport.
That was my mission, by the way, to have my life on paper look very impressive.
Well, tick.
Tick. No, it wasn't really. But anyway, secretly.
Look, that story certainly extends well beyond sport, but really for any one of us who knows you and your story, and I certainly know that from when you were doing your Ironman, that's what really first sort of impressed me. So maybe you can take us back to that and we can see how your story has evolved and where that's taken you, because it really has taken you in some in different directions, more about the individual. But let's just start with your beginning.
I wanted to say something first, because I think what's interesting about this is we've interviewed some amazing people in this, and I love doing interviews, and I go on other people's podcasts, and I do love to speak because you build up all the stuff that you share, you've learnt that you want to share. But what I noticed, and I've reflected on this a little while ago, when I was the Ironman, everything was outward-facing, public persona, very well known. The series was very popular in Australia, etc. And so it was very loud and noisy, and it was easy to know what I was about because that part of me was very well published and advertised. But since I've gone through this sort of transformation, which we'll get into later, it's been very quiet. And I've learnt way more that is helpful in the quiet times than I did in the noisy times.
Yeah.
But because it's quiet, I've not necessarily communicated a lot of it. So I love any opportunity to talk about the transition of discovering the depth of life from the outward-facing, good-looking stuff to the inward feeling like, oh, I've got some things to deal with. So
we're going to go in deep with that.
Excited about doing this.
I think we need to start really right at the beginning, and that is for everything that people know you for, and that's surf lifesaving, and that's the Ironman competition. So what originally drew you to that sport?
Can I just, even though we think everyone knows you, we might be getting some international guests or someone that is a younger person that perhaps didn't even know much about the Ironman. When I grew up, it was such a big deal, but it's not such a big...
No, that's right.
So maybe actually you can actually explain what an Ironman even
is in the competition. If you're over 45, there's a fair chance that you'll remember my name.
I'm 46 and only just remember.
There you go.
So perhaps even, would it be okay if you explain what is the competition and what was involved?
For sure, yeah. So the Ironman that we're talking about is Ocean Ironman racing. Ironman internationally internationally is renowned with triathlon and the Hawaiian Ironman in particular, and actually has the copyright on the name Ironman is patented to triathlon, World Triathlon. But it was granted to them by Australian Surf Lifesaving because it originally owned the name of Ironman, and Australian Surf Lifesaving maintained or retained the use of the word Ironman because it was around 1966, long story short, was an Australian team went to the USA, raced the Californian lifeguards, and they had this race called the Ironman where they did a swim race in the ocean. They're lifeguards, so they've got to rescue people out of the ocean. So their rescue skills were built on how do we get out and get somebody. So there's a swim leg, there's a board leg or a paddle board leg where you paddle out a board that you can put someone on and rescue them and bring them back. And in California, it was a dory leg, and they used to have this 2-person dory where 2 people would row out this little boat facing backwards, row out, pull a person into it and row them back. That was a piece of rescue equipment in the 60s, 70s. They still race it in California now. So that was the Ironman race. So the Australians did really well at it, didn't know how to row the dory, brought it back and went, well, let's convert it into Australian terms. And it was swim leg, a board leg, and an ocean ski or an ocean kayak leg. So we have these long skis, they're 17'6" long in the old terms. And you paddle those out, drag someone onto it and paddle them back. Now,
wasn't there a run leg there as well?
The run leg connects all of it together.
Okay,
so you run in. The order is always actually oscillated, so picked out of a hat on the morning. So it might be swim, board, ski, board, swim, ski, board, ski, swim, board, whatever it is.
Yep.
Those particular choices. So that order is picked out, and then you have to race through what's generally in Australian and World Championships, it's a 12-minute race. So it takes about 4 minutes to get out through both breaks, the shore break and the back break of the ocean, to go around a set of swim cans and back in. That's about 4 minutes. Extend it a bit further out because paddle boards are faster, and that's how long the paddle board takes to get out and back. Extend it further out because skis are faster, and that's how long the ski leg gets to take around. And then you've got the run legs in between and then a sprint to the finish. So that's traditionally.
The bit I remember.
Yeah,
the sprint. That's probably what everyone remembers. It's that sprint at the end.
Sprint to the finish. And traditionally, and in Australia, people would remember Grant Kenny if they're over a certain age. And Grant,
that was the first name.
Yeah, he won the junior and senior Ironman. So he was under 18, won the junior title, and immediately afterwards won the open title. And he did that at Maroochydore Beach in 1980. And that captured the imagination of Australians. Back then, we had no internet. So we had no social media. We didn't have Netflix or Foxtel or Facebook or Instagram.
And we did have
TikTok.
Nutrigrain.
And we had Nutrigrain, and we had Channel 7, Channel 9, and Channel 10, and ABC.
Yeah.
So people got their sport only through the newspaper, the radio, or those 4 stations. And so when it was, the Australian Championships are on, and all of a sudden in the news and everything, there's a young guy trying to win. He's won the Queensland Junior and Senior. He could win the Australian, and everybody watched it, and it captured the attention of the nation. At the time, Nutrigrain, Kellogg's Nutrigrain, went, oh, we can see something here. The first ad that he did was for Golden Breed T-shirts, and basically his ad was, I wear Golden Breed or I wear no shirt at all. And, and then he runs off, takes his shirt off and runs into the water.
And that was a very 70s style surfing
and it was,
brand.
so it was 70s style but early 80s.
Right, yeah.
81, and at the same time Kellogg's Nutrigrain, and I think Tony Gregg used to have just like a cricket bat with holes in it, and he was the famous English cricketer that was a commentator in Australia. And then Grant Kenny did the ad where swim, run, paddleboard, corn, oats, wheat, all this sort of stuff. And so it was this whole advertisement for, Nutrigrain. But that, whilst the nutrition is questionable, the actual, at that particular time, that was a massive campaign, and it put him on literally the breakfast tables of most Australians. And that
he was the face of Australian health and fitness at that point, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
He really was, yeah.
And a golden head, big goofy smile, sweetheart of a human. And he went on to win 4 Australian Ironman Open in a row. So broke the record. 3 had been won before, but not even in a row. He won 4 in a row. So changed the sport. He then switched to kayaking and raced in the LA Olympics and got a bronze medal over there in kayaking. So he was like this incredible athlete and inspiration. So at that same period of time, 1980, I'm 12. So while Grant's winning at 17, I'm 12 years of age. So I'm in the nippers and I've travelled around Australia with my family. I was born in Melbourne and my father felt like, I've told this story a little bit before, but my father felt like he had everything he was supposed to have. Being in Melbourne, he was a foreman of a building site and a construction company, built his own house, had my 5-year-old sister, myself, a pet rabbit, a pet dog, a picket fence around a house that he'd built, a beautiful wife. He had the whole picture and he felt as though something was missing. Like he had everything he was supposed to have. And it's probably important to say this part at the start as far as people being demonstrations. My father felt something was missing. And the two things he said was, everyone's talking about on their holidays going to the US. What about seeing our own country? So I would say he didn't realise at the time, but he was being called to country. There was some sort of a energetic pull towards seeing our nation and experiencing it fully rather than just Melbourne. And also, but there's something else. I'm not sure whether the kids should grow up in Melbourne. I'm not sure whether they should just follow in my footsteps exactly. So we travelled around Australia for 2 years, settled on the Gold Coast when I was 5. I learned to swim in the Daly River, Northern Territory, which is now where you go to watch crocodiles.
And you don't come from a swimming background.
Didn't come from a swimming background. So we used to go run up and down the sand dune all day up from the camp that we stayed in. And then the whole camp, like 4 families or so, we'd all drift down the Daly River back to the campground, climb out and camp, and we'd stay there for a couple of weeks over school holidays.
Fantastic.
We do that every day. I learned to swim in that. That's now literally where you go to see 5-metre crocodiles. So back then they'd been hunted for a long period of time and they were trying to hide from humans, but they were there. And the last time we left there, we got a postcard about 3 weeks later with a picture, with a story about how they found a 5-metre crocodile sitting on that sand dune. So I've always said that that's probably why I don't like being at the back of the pack, because somewhere deep in my subconscious I was trying to be at the front.
Yeah.
But I learned to swim there, settled on the Gold Coast, joined the Nippers, which is the junior surf lifesaving movement. In California, they have junior lifeguards.
What attracted you to that? I mean, so was it your choice or?
No, what attracted was my best friend walking around the corner saying, "Hey, Trev," as I'm walking towards him, we've got Nippers are starting up this Sunday. Do you want to come down, and join? And I had the words formed in my mouth ready to say, "No, thanks, not for me." And my father stepped next to me and overheard this and said he'd love to come down. I was thinking, no, I would not love to come down.
Speak about a pivotal moment in one's life. I mean, that could have gone either way.
Yeah.
Just that moment in time.
Left to my own devices, I would have avoided everything.
I mean, your life would have been completely different.
Yeah. So when I travelled around Australia, I had my mum and dad and I could just grab onto their coattails. I could grab onto their belt. We climbed Uluru, called Ayers Rock back then, and all the way, I ran all the way up. And when I turned to come down, this is a very young kid, when I turned to come down, one of our friends dropped their water bottle and it crashed all the way down and just watched it disappear off the end of the cliff. And then I all of a sudden realised that could be me. Freaked out and grabbed onto my father and I wouldn't let go of him the whole way back down, And that kind of summarised my early life. Was super adventurous if I didn't see fear or danger, but if I saw fear and danger, I'm not straying anywhere from my father or my mother. I'm like holding on to them. So when I'm invited to go to Nippers, it's like, no thanks. With people I don't know, to do things I don't know about in the ocean, you get stuffed, And my dad's saying he'd love to. And I'm like, I would not love to, Went down, cried the first day.
You were at what age?
8 years of age, and we had to swim 6 laps across the Surfside 6 swimming pool, across a motel, across and back a motel swimming pool. I've swum all around Australia now at this stage, and when I got up, Dad's like, no problems, he'll do that. But I looked at the other people and they're swinging their arms around and there's some sort of an energy from the parents and everything as well. It was like, smash them, And I looked at it and whatever it was, I bawled my eyes out. I'm not jumping in there and racing against other people. So the competition racing thing was not only not natural to me, it was like an abomination to me. It was like the opposite to what I wanted to do.
Threatened.
I felt threatened. I felt insecure. I felt small. I felt powerless. I felt in danger. I didn't know what was going to happen next. Very natural, like simple things. A young kid.
Yeah.
Don't leave me, Dad. Don't make me do this. So to my father's credit, what he did was he pulled me over. I'm crying, holding on to him, and he said to them, "Yeah, go ahead, run the race." And he held on to me. And I just looked and I'm like, I'm probably vaguely remember thinking, yeah, I'm definitely not doing this. This is great. Thanks, Dad, And he waited till everyone finished all the different age groups, and then they went down to the beach to do the thing, and he held me there, and he said, all right, mate, let's come down to it. And I'm like, yeah. I'm thinking, good, I didn't have to do it, got away with this. And he said, all right, now do your 6 laps. And so I love this part of the story. I say this to parents all the time because he took something that was super confronting to me and he took the confront away from it. And he said, but I know you can do those 6 laps and I know it'll be really good for you and I know it'll break a pattern of not doing something. So I did the 6 laps and I don't remember really resisting that, thinking, oh, okay, then, probably a little bit shitty and pissed off at him. But I did the 6 laps and got out of it, and it set up a lifelong pattern for me. And that was whenever I ran away from something, I always found myself coming back and going,
what was your
I'm not going to let it
What
beat
was your
me.
attitude at the time then when you were doing those 6 laps? Do you remember what you were thinking and how
I'm
you
8,
approached
and
it?
I vaguely remember just thinking, oh, this is way better than racing against them. I'll do my 6 laps.
Right.
So it was.
And did you put your heart and soul into it, or you just did it? You just coasted through it?
Just did it. Got out of it. Dad's happy. I'm happy. We've both had a win here. Right. I didn't have to race against those idiots, So
it was a small step towards.
It was a small step. But what it did was said, you didn't run away and do nothing and set a lifelong pattern of actually, if I don't want to do it, I'm running away. You did it, but you took apart the part that was confronting out. So we'll see in my story, I've been through relationship breakups and I've been through major confronting things in my life that I actually didn't. My father set that pattern for the rest of my life that I never could walk away from. I'd always go, I'll go lick my wounds and I'll come back and I'll do it in a way that's less confronting. And then eventually I'll confront it at the same level that the original fear was at. Right. And my whole life has been defined by that one moment. Literally, it's changed my life.
Amazing. So what was your progress then from there?
Went down to the flags, and there's a second part, went down to the beach flags. And in the beach flags, you get a few pieces of hose that are all cut up, and they stick up out of the sand. And if there's 10 kids in it, they're laying down in a line on the sand with their feet on that line, face down, facing the opposite direction to the finish line. The finish line is 15 metres away. It's another line in the sand, and there's 9 pieces of flag put in. So it's in between each person, there's a flag. And so they say heads down, feet together, heads down, and they blow the whistle. And you jump up, spin around, run to the other end, and dive and try and get one of those pieces of flag. So 10 people run for a flag and 9 people get one. And it's musical beach flags. And then you run back and 9 people lay down, there's 8 flags. 8 people lay down, 7 flags. So, and it's designed, it's all rescue stuff. So it's designed as a junior surf lifesaver. I'm laying on the beach just chilling. Oh, there's a rescue. How quick can you get up and turn around and run out and rescue that person? So it's about response times and all that sort of stuff. And it's ridiculous and funny, but it's amazing to watch the best in the world do this event.
And there's also a lot behind it. Like you said, you're actually rescuing and saving people's lives.
The whole purpose.
Yes, it's a sport and it's fun, but you're actually set up to, to stop people from dying out in the ocean. So,
Yeah, the whole purpose of Nippers, Junior Surf Lifesavers, and lifesaving as a whole is to do 2 things, is to make the individual capable and confident to go out in any conditions to rescue someone. That's an internal thing. And then externally for them to be able to go out and rescue someone and bring them back. So the purpose is to rescue someone, but you've got to be prepared to be able to do that. So you've got to get past your fears and insecurities and get over waves and under waves and learn about the ocean. And whatever's got that person into trouble, you need to be better than that trouble.
Yeah.
So for you to perform the role of getting someone. So it's this thing that we'll talk about when we get to the top of the tree, is that some of the best athletes in the world do it. Ali Day, who's the current, Finn Askew is the current world champion, but Ali Day, best in the world in so many different disciplines, is a freak athlete. Like he could stand up against anyone in the world. He has a VO2 max that would match a cross-country skier. He's absolutely incredible athlete, and he's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
And he grew up rescuing people in his spare time on a weekend. It's like, wow, it's a crazy thing that's happened. So we're doing the beach flags and they go heads down, feet together, heads down, blow the whistle. And I go up and I hop up. And for those that can't visually see what I'm doing, I'm hopping up a bit casually, spin around. And all I see is 9 bums just racing down the field and then 9 bums dive at all these 9 beach flags. But 2 people dive on one and start wrestling for it. And they leave this one just sitting there and I run up stone motherless last, so far behind. I run up and I get a flag. Like I'm running along thinking, loser, just like I thought I always was, like the insecurities of being a young guy that hadn't socialized much. And I get a flag and I'm like, I got a flag. I'm not a loser. I've got something. And I turn around and my mum is over on the sideline going like, not probably saying this, but in my mind, Trevor, you got a flag. Trevor, you got a flag, and I'm like, and mum seemed to be impressed about me getting this flag. And so this has changed my life as well. It's like, I had a win and I seem to be more approved of or better from the win. My mum didn't intend that. She's just excited that I didn't bail out and feel like I was last. So I get the flag and I go back and 9 people lay down and whistle goes and we jump up. I'm watching 8 bums as I casually get up, run down in front of me and 2 people jump for a flag again. And so third time lucky. So second, I run over and there's a flag and I just pick it up. I look around at my mum straight away like, do I get the same level of – I look at my mum and she's like, yes, you got another flag. And she must have been thinking, the little dipshit, I'm sure she wasn't. My mum will listen to this.
Yes.
My mum would be thinking, I'm just happy for him, that he did get a bit of confidence, So I run back down. Now I'm thinking, mental note to self, go as the whistle goes, don't leave this to chance anymore. And so something brewed inside of me in that moment of, okay, I'm not dying out here. No one's killing me. This is okay. But if I jump up a bit earlier, like really soon as that whistle goes, I might get a flag. And this is pretty impressive because mum's enjoying it. This is good. I'm having a good win here. And simple story, but the whistle goes and I jump up, spin around and I run down and I'm level with everyone else and I dive and I get my own flag. The long story short is I end up in the final 2. And in the final 2, now I'm starting to think, hey, I'm okay. I can do this. And in the final 2, I lose. I think in the early days of me being a public speaker, I think I told the story that I won because I couldn't let go of the winner. But I'm pretty sure I got second. And I don't really remember that part because it wasn't the major part. I just remember getting the flags early on. But what it did was those 2 moments, my father saying, just follow something through. And then this healthy/unhealthy double-edged sword thing of getting confidence in yourself, but your confidence is built on whether you almost defeated somebody else or you're almost like, I'm not the one that lost.
There also seems to be also a sense of I feel good when I get the cheers and approval of others as well.
Absolutely. And my mother and father were so important to me.
Yeah.
And people love winning. Even you're talking about with your parents too, when my son kicks a goal at soccer, I'd never want to be one of those parents that makes him think he has to win. But you do get excited. Good on you. Well done. You get praise for these things. So that feeds something.
Yeah,
and
my
as you
son,
said, a double-edged sword. I mean, you're building your confidence. You're building, your sense of self.
And we'll take what you said, and it'll come out later in the story. But just jumping forward, my son, TJ, is in the Ironman circuit, and I have a hidden subconscious sense, and I've done a fair bit of work to let this go so that my love for him is unconditional. That, got you, mate, love you, how'd you go? How do you feel? How was it for you? Did you break through? Do you feel confident and proud of yourself? Not are you waiting for us to be proud of you because I'm proud of you no matter what, And sometimes friends will say to me, because I'm a bit of an exemplar in life, I'm sort of fit and healthy, I don't drink, there's all sorts of different things that I've grown into not doing and doing that are probably out of the ordinary because I want to live a long, healthy life. And so friends will often say to me, oh, you'd be really proud of me. And they assume because they've gone exercising and I stop and I say, well, I'm always really proud of you. By the way, and you should be proud of you. I love you, but tell me your story about how I should be proud of you. But I'm proud of you because I just think you're amazing, And I've learnt that because I had to learn that for myself. And it's off the back of what you said, looking for others' approval. And so TJ will race, and it's been really hard for me to shake this feeling deep inside of me. It's like a cellular feeling deep in my psychology of, but if he wins, he'll feel so good about himself. So what do I really want him to do? It's not that I want him to win. I want him to feel so good about himself. And then there's this other tangled part, which is, but if he wins, other people think he's good too, and they'll leave him alone and they won't hassle him, and he'll get an easy path through life, and he'll be given good things because that was my experience.
So how do you coach your son then to balance that? Because as you said, you want him to feel good. Winning is a good way of feeling good, but it's also a risk that you can define yourself. by
my
those
son's
wins.
now 29.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time and I haven't been coaching him. What I've been doing is sharing the journey with him of releasing that. And as he's releasing it, it's like me 2.0. So as he's releasing it, I'm letting it go too. I'm just going, oh,
So you're healing vicariously through your son.
I'm not winning vicariously through my son. I'm healing vicariously through my son, and quite openly and honestly about it.
Yeah.
So my other son, Bailey, he's won Australian Open Jiu-Jitsu titles and all sorts of stuff. So there's a bit of competition in the family.
Yeah.
And Bay's got his own journey, his own challenges and all sorts of different things that have also stemmed off my apple tree. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, both the mother tree and the father tree. But I'll often just wake up in the morning and I'll be wrestling through an old trait or an old energy that I'm realizing is still in me. And I'll just put the text message, and I'll flip audio and I'll go, hey boys, just wanted to share something with you. I've just got this overwhelming feeling that I'm not enough. And I realize it goes back to da-da-da-da-da. And I really feel like a piece of shit in this space. And, blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted to share it with you in case you could relate, because I know you guys have been on a big journey lately. But yeah, I feel better just telling you, and I feel a bit emotional and vulnerable, and I love you guys and hope you have a good day,
What a good day.
And I'm in Melbourne.
And you're tearing up right now.
Yeah, I can feel it because I feel, I feel at whatever level of, let's call it weird words, but consciousness and awareness that I'm at, of what I've become aware of is that's a better way to walk the journey with your children than the idea that I'm the example. That I'm the positive example. I want to be the vulnerable example, the real example.
What really comes across to me is that sense of consciousness that you've got with yourself now. Because we all carry those feelings, those negative, our baggage, our past experiences that we can feel them. We don't know what they relate to. We don't really explore them. In fact, we likely run away from them. And what you're telling me is, in fact, right now, your purpose is, no, I want to sit with that. I want to explore that. I want to understand what that is and then relate that to the people that I love.
Make the world a better place, my own. And just quickly, it's bringing up for me something that I've shared before in maybe our first episode was about my father. So my father's still alive at the moment with dementia and all the declining features of those things. But thinner and skinnier, and when I pull the sheets back to help him out, he's non-compass most of the time. He's communicating, but only through noises and eyes fluttering and excited to see us or whatever. But he's stuck behind this curtain of sickness and disease, degradation, and I'm watching him fail, and I know that I can see the curve and where it goes. And I'm looking at my father and I'm going, my father was my greatest role model. And what if I went back to the moment my father said in Melbourne, which is where we are right now, in Melbourne, he said, there's more to life than this. This pattern that I've lived and this model that he'd modeled very well. All of his friends thought he was an exemplar and they thought he was crazy when he gave it all away to travel around Australia, sold the house and got a caravan. You've given it all away. You're out of the market at the wrong time, all this sort of stuff, even back in the early 70s. Oh, it's not a good time to sell in Melbourne. You won't get back in and all this sort of stuff. And he gave it all away because he had a sense there's something bigger than this thing that promises me so much that I followed to its logical end, and yet I don't feel full. And so if we go back to what you just said, he set that tone in me that every time I've had a sense of comfort and I've won now, I've got the world at my feet and I've got respect or whatever it is, in the early days, I took it and grabbed it and ran with it. And this will come into the story a bit later too. And it started to actually degrade me, like even my own morals and my own ethics and what I stood for and what I valued and the way I carried myself as a human.
Yep. On
the surface, it was still the guy next door and very popular and easy to be around, but I began to take all the sugars in life and everything else.
Well, let's go through that journey then. Okay, so obviously you're starting to get your confidence, you're starting to win. Something has awakened in you, that competitive spirit.
Yes.
So where did that take you from that point?
Not far. So what happened was I just didn't want to go much further than being competitive, but I never won anything for a long period of time. And then as a young kid, I was skinny, freckly, late developer, no hairs under the arms, underdeveloped, even at the male level, like, oh no, I'm not packing a big punch here, like all the things that boys think of, right? And Everyone else is going through puberty, got hairs under their arms and chests and everything else, and I'm a small little guy and I'm not winning much at all, not doing much. But I would train, but there was a psychological barrier in me that, I want to keep up, but I don't want to be last, but I don't want to win or succeed or prove or perform or whatever. I don't know what the barrier then was. It's like I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to potentially be attacked for being a winner or whatever it was, because I just wanted.
So winning scared you?
Winning scared me 100%. And I love the Nelson Mandela quote, our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most, And so we think our deepest fear is losing or failing or being left out or left behind. And at the first level that we explore it, my experience is that is our deepest fear at that level. And then when we start to process and discover and get beyond that level, we realize there's a hidden one behind it. I'm actually more fearful of actually standing out and shining and being an exemplar and winning and whatever else, because
why do we fear that? Because it sounds like everything that we would want.
I'm going to go a bit woo-woo, which might come in later, is that I believe that we're born with certain traits in us, and I think there's certain archetypes in the world, and there's certain archetypal heroes that if we look at, and what are the earliest ones? Jesus Christ is an archetypal hero, and I wasn't religious, and I didn't. We were a Church of England, but we never went. And it was, I just got the Bible story read to me so I could relate to it, but I was never religious. But, he was an archetypal hero. And what did he do? He performed miracles. He healed people. He lived with love. He walked the earth with his heart open. He judged nobody, And what did he get for it? Crucified.
Yeah, and that's it. You put yourself out there. You are putting
You're
yourself.
making yourself vulnerable.
Exactly.
And
for
so-
people to want to tear you down. You need to be strong enough to deal with that. Yes.
Yeah. If we earmarked this part of the conversation for later and went archetypically, energetically at a quantum level, which I know you right into, right at a cellular level, but deep where energy resides and creates the life of a cell and everything else, we've got patterns and memories and archetypes and all sorts of things that occur. Who comes along next? Well, there's many, but if you jump to the witches, they were witches. What were they? They were practicing women who were in the lunar cycles that were doing healthy medicines, that were trying to, a lot of them were actually birthing the wives of the noblemen, and all this sort of stuff. And the noblemen started going, hey, they've actually pretty good. Like they've cured this and cured that. Because at that particular point in time, if you had a sickness or an illness that wouldn't go away, you're a sinner. There was a reason. It was that God was punishing you or whatever it may be. So church and state were very much married together in the 14s, 15s, 1600s, And so these women were saying, no, you just take a little bit of, St. John's wort, or you take
have some of these herbs.
Some of these herbs,
do
or
some of these things. Yeah,
put your feet on the earth, or and then you'll be better. And people were doing it, and it started to build this momentum. And some of them were probably worshipping a few other things or whatever, but it actually went into this area. So there was laws passed that you don't have to prove someone; you just have to accuse someone, and they can be burned at the stake.
But they were the light. They were having successes in their field.
Yeah,
and
they threatened the establishment energy.
That's what we're fearing, though, isn't it?
They might have threatened church and state, but behind church and state is a certain energy. So the people in church and state are going, I can be someone, and I can have control, and I can get all the goodies, and I can have power. I don't have to be left out, and I don't have to be a pauper, and let them eat cake, and all this sort of stuff. And so if you look at just at a more of an archetypical level and a helicopter view, the earth has had this energy around for a long time that you can either be in power, greed, and control, or you can be in understanding, love, and acknowledgement, to use a great teacher of mine's terms. He said you can make two triangles, one that spirals down into hell, living hell, and you're making deals with whatever energy you want to call it, or the other one that spirals out into expansion and we work together, power, greed, and control, or understanding, love, and acknowledgement.
And at that age, when you were starting to get into your competitive spirit, there was something holding you back, which we just spoke about. Have you ever wondered what a healthier, stronger future you might look like? With Melrose FutureLab, Australia's first longevity supplement range, you can now optimise your health span routine by supporting cellular energy, metabolic well-being and muscle maintenance, as well as much, much more. And you can find this range at Chemist Warehouse and leading health food stores.
So, and you look through, witches got burned at the stake. Nelson Mandela, jailed. John F. Kennedy, shot. Malcolm X, shot.
But you weren't
Martin
aware
Luther
of that
King,
when you were 10, 12, 14 years of age.
But this is the point, right? It's energetic. Do you have to be aware of it if it's energetically hanging around your head? If you live in a society that has a frequency and a vibration that says you don't have to be aware of this until you start standing out. And I honestly believe from my own experiences and strange memories that I've had, I'm like, I feel like we are all, this is just a viewpoint, it's a crazy one, but I feel that we are all eternal beings. This is what I've come to experience or feel, that potentially you could look at many lifetimes like I come back to learn this lesson, that lesson, this lesson, until I get all of the lessons together and then they all line up and they turn into a congruent, beautiful masterpiece that might be a life well lived, that shines a light or it becomes a beacon for others. So I look at all those great people we just mentioned and we go, oh, they were all versions of that, which were taken out by the planetary energy at the time. So for myself, for some reason, I don't even know why, I didn't want to stand out. Mm-hmm. And it was with me the whole time.
The whole time meaning?
Through childhood, I didn't want to stand out. I just want to stay and hold on to my mum's coattails. I didn't want to stand out. But I've now developed, I don't want to be left behind. I don't want to be last, but I don't want to be first. So I'll just do enough work and enough effort to not lose. Yeah. But you can screw winning because you can go to.
So you consciously made the decision
I unconsciously, subconsciously made those decisions. I can consciously now recognize it because I could feel. Yes, I was like, no. I don't want standing out. I want comfort. Yeah. I want to be liked. I want to be admired. I want to be acknowledged. I want to be included. I want to be believed in. I want to be good enough and seen as maybe attractive so that a girl might couple up with me because then I could be more like my mum and dad who are my heroes. But I don't want any more than that. I don't want to be someone who's going to draw attention to myself. I just want to be loved.
So what switched and when?
Well, what happened was you can't stay wedged in one place for too long because ultimately the right people came along, particularly one person who was just the right bully for the right amount of time in my life to say, and he was the winner. He stood out and he was like, he part of him winning was keeping me down because I was on the rise. And I was starting to explore the idea of winning and succeeding and paddling faster and everything. Now I'm talking 15 and 16. But he was the guy that won. And part of him loved me because I made his teams better and he liked being around me and we were good friends and all this sort of stuff. But another part of him that was the winner was like, hang on a second, keep him in his box though because he's actually got quite a bit of talent. He could be better than me. So what happened was I had this experience of being bullied. I had this experience of being, flushed and initiated in the surf club at a certain age, like 14, 15, and humiliated. And well, now we're all in the same club because we've all been humiliated. And now we know what power is. Power is where because you've been humiliated, within a year or two, you can chase the other young kids around and humiliate them. And that's what power. It was a terrible rites of passage that took you into power, greed, and control, not into understanding, love, and acknowledgement. Yeah. It did, however, so no victim story here. What it did was it woke up my power, but the power was now tangled in I need to win because I never want to have that feeling again. So I literally went from never won a race at 16 years of age to being Australian Open champion. So I was fifth in my own surf club as a junior in 300 clubs in Australia out of 6 people. And the kid that got 6th was my best mate, and I talked him into racing the Ironman at club championships because he couldn't paddle a ski, then I wouldn't get last. And there's my story again. There it is revealing itself. Yeah. I got 5th out of 6th as a first-year junior. As a second-year junior, 6 months after this snap, I got 3rd in Australia in the juniors as a and then I basically...
You were also, though, physically developing as well.
I was beginning to physically develop and I was beginning to mentally develop. Yeah. I was coming out from under the rock and I was literally... And the anger and the power that was in the anger and the rage and the upset, no one's ever going to make me feel like that again.
So that one kid...
Not the one kid, those experiences of feeling underneath all those experiences, right. But he was a key, beautiful, powerful part of it because it was all symbolized in those moments where one's the winner and one's the loser. And our crew, our senior crew used to say, winners are grinners and the rest can please themselves. And it's like, you're basically first or you're last.
Yeah.
And you say, you're first or you're last. You know, it's either first or, you know, and they called it the consolation prizes, and so it wasn't a silver medal. It was first runner, you know, it was all this sort of stuff that was like basically said you're either a winner or a loser. So it was very polarizing, and it was very much like, in my mind, by the way, that young guy, he was good looking, blonde. He's a really actually cool human, you know, like he's built like, you know, like carved by the hands of Zeus, you know, like he was like incredible. Got all the girls, got everything. I got the courage up to ask this girl out, and there's a long story which I won't go into, but I got the courage to ask this girl out, and she was like a promotional model from Brisbane for a radio station. They brought all the promotional girls down. They did their bronze medallion, and they were I had to be the patient because my father was the chief instructor, and he always had this thing where he'd say, Trev, do you want to be the patient for the bronze squad this week? And it'd be like 50-year-old men in midlife crisis, and they'd had garlic and a few rums the night before, and they'd be pretending to do resus right over me, have rescued me with their little man boobs hanging in my face. And I'd be like, oh, God, I'm a patient for Dad's bloody bronze squad and doing my bit for the world. And I hated it, you know. I enjoyed helping my dad, but I was like, oh, God, I think that was, what was he drinking, you know, like, and I'd walk away going, thanks, Dad. Yeah, see ya. Oh, I couldn't get far enough away. And then one day my dad goes, Trev, do you want to be the patient for the bronze squad this Sunday? It's their pre-assessment, you know? And I'm like, nah, Dad, I've got to get this other thing. And he goes, oh, it's the girls squad from Brisbane. And I had this one girl that I had my eyes on the whole time. And I all of a sudden pictured her laying down, giving me resus, and not her man boobs.
I'm not breathing.
And her leaning right over me. And all of a sudden I was like, Dad, I'm available, you know, and I was there 15 minutes early, ready to go.
Always happy to help you, Dad.
You know, and in raw, real, honest terms, not politically correct terms, I was a young guy just going, hell yeah, you know, and rescued by this woman of my dreams, you know, in the picture that I had in my head. And she rescued me, resuscitated me. I actually corrected. I'm laying there, and she's resuscitating me too fast. And I'm going, and 1 and 2, and I'm counting because I knew the count so perfectly. And she's like looking at me, smiling, oh, like, thank you. And she's, you know, and then the instructor says, oh, young lady, perfect timing. You're passed. Whole squad's passed on that. Well done, you know. And she's looking at me like, yes. And she's thinking, thank you so much for your help. And I'm thinking, thank you so much for the greatest day of my life. You know, we're both wet right here, and you're laying over top of me. You know, this is incredible. I never saw this happening, you know. And she said to me, you know, do you want to, said I wasn't going to tell the story, but now I am. But she said to me, do you want to, I've seen you're really good on the paddleboard. Next week we're going to do the board rescues. Do you want to take me out on the paddleboard and show me how to paddle and catch the waves because I'm scared of the waves? I said, yeah, no worries. So, look, I got my board down here. I'll go get one for you. And she said, no, I want to come on your board. And that's where when you're doing board rescue with your mate, you lay your mate on the front of the board, and you've got to slightly part his legs, lay on their bum, because you've got to be kind of connected like one. And then if you nosedive, you get tangled in your mate's, you know, you're laying between his legs. So you get, you know, I'll let people picture this, and I hope you don't feel this. This is just me being raw and real.
The picture's real.
The picture's real. And so it's like board rescue's fun with your mate until you end up between his legs crashing in a wave. And all of a sudden I'm picturing the girl of my dreams is I'm going to board rescue, you know. And so I took her out on the paddleboard, and long story short was we had this amazing time, and she loved it, and I certainly loved it. And she said, oh, let's do that every day. And we did it for the next week. And I eventually got the courage up to ask her out on a date. And to ask her, not on a date, to be my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And back then, how you said that was, would you go with me, you know? Yeah. And so I approached her across the surf club. I've built up the courage. I'm a scared little kid, right? I've built up the courage. I swear Eminem was, if he was there, he would have been in the background going, lose yourself in, you know. And I'm walking across, there's one, don't miss your opportunity, you know, like this. And I walk across, and I asked her to go with me, and she said yes. And I was kind of shocked. I was ready to walk away. And so I went and brought her a strawberry milkshake, and, you know, and it was my first ever girlfriend, right? And the next day I had to go away for the second half of school holidays because my dad's finished the bronze squad. They've passed. It's a week after that initial experience, and we go horse riding in northern New South Wales for a week with my family. And I'm all week, Trevor's got a girlfriend. I'm so excited I've got a girlfriend. I come back a week later, walk up, can't wait to see her, walk into the club last day of school holidays. As I get to the top of the stairs, I look around the corner and I look over, and I see her looking absolutely beautiful and incredible sitting on that guy's lap.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. And so if you get the, if you get the heartbreak of the story was as a young kid, my mind went nuts. The subconscious went into overdrive of how do I protect myself from I've just got humiliated, I'm not good enough, I'm not enough. Go away with your family, bad shit will happen. Can't trust your mates, can't trust women, girls. I good enough to get them, not good enough to keep them. So I turned around, went to walk away before anyone saw me, and I'm freaking, like I'm dying on the inside. My mate walks up the stairs, oh, Trev, you're back. And he goes, oh, what are you up to? I said, oh, I just got to go do something. And I'm like crying, dying on the inside. And he says, and I said to him, oh, hey, what's going on with so-and-so and so-and-so? And he goes, oh, yeah, they're dating. And I went, oh, okay, well, see you soon. Like, and now I'm dead. I'm like, and I'm sure people that are listening to this can relate. It was the first major heartbreak, broken-hearted, broken-spirited moment, and because of you're just trying desperately to be liked and loved. I was, and I thought for a little period of time I was liked and loved and I was enough the way I was, but it turns out I wasn't, in my mind. So what happened was I walked the streets of Surfers Paradise, went to KFC for some comfort and then got some donuts and other things. And I walked the streets of Surfers Paradise and I thought to myself the whole time, how do I never have this experience again? And after I decided can't trust women, can't trust your friends, can't trust your family for taking you away, and set a whole lot of patterns into play in my mind as beliefs, like a later teacher called them pattern-forming decisions that you make. You decide that that's the truth, and then it repeats itself over and again. And but what I concluded was he's the Australian champion. He's the winner. He gets the girl, he gets the laughs, he gets to call the shots, everything else. And so what happened was, and it's interesting to take a fair bit of time to tell the start of the story, which is now the end of this story at the start, is because that's what created the person that I became to win everything. Because from there, you know what? It's just really simple. This is enough's enough. This is bullshit. This is all happening inside myself. I have to win everything.
You're going to prove yourself.
I will win everything from now on. No, we'll swear for a moment. No fucker will ever beat me again. No one will ever beat me again. This is ridiculous. So I birthed a power inside of me. And it's a power that exists inside of all of us to take control of our life and our destiny, but it was married to dysfunction and dis-ease and hatred and upset. So it was going to give me a certain amount of fuel, but I was always going to have to come back and go, what birthed that? Where did that come from? Because if I don't resolve the original upset,
well, that's almost like a trauma.
It's like absolutely was a trauma.
And rather than
it's not a big victim-y story trauma. We all relate to it.
Look, at that age, at 16 years of age, when you had your heart broken,
I was destroyed.
And
the person I thought I was destroyed, and a new person was born, a better version in that moment to never feel that pain again. And that's a really key part of it. I will never feel that pain again. So I used my whatever considerable power I had to never feel that pain again. And we'll get to that later.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll win everything.
And so that is the fire that was lit in you.
Yes.
To then have such a successful career. And is that what you say drove you for? I mean, how long were you really competitive in that sport? It was...
Well, so the coach turned up. We set the goals off the back of this burning thing inside of me.
You were 16?
I was 16, never won a thing, 5th out of 6 in my surf club in junior. Decided to be the Australian Junior Ironman champion in a year and a half. Decided to be the Australian Open Ironman champion in 2.5 years. 5 years down the track or 10 years down the track, on my goals, I had all the goals, to be the greatest of all time. To have won more than anybody, captain Australia more times than anyone else, to be a public speaker, to have a wife and kids, to have a house on the water, drive a sports car. The early ones were to have more friends and to get a girlfriend. And then it was by 5 years in my goals, I was married. So I wrote that at 16, 15 going on 16. At 19, I was married.
So are you saying that the key driving, motivating factor for all of that entire list and the success that you achieved behind that was the pain and the hurt that you had experienced at 16 and your strategy for avoiding that? Is that the primary driver for all of that?
That was the primary activator. So it's the rolling relationship between needing power because I'm powerless and wanting to be loved and liked.
Yeah.
So I want to be enough.
Yeah.
So deep down inside, I want to be enough. I want to be enough. I'm not enough. I am clearly not enough. I've met someone beautiful. It's shown to me straight away that I thought you're enough, but I've seen him and he's more and he's better. He's enough, you're not enough.
Yeah.
And that this is not anyone's intention. These are, once again, archetypes and patterns and things that a lot of people experience. But it actually drove me to go, if I don't feel loved, which is, remember I said, understanding love and acknowledgement?
Yeah.
If I'm not understood, loved and acknowledged, then I'm going to have to lean. So I go over to power, greed and control. I feel powerless. I feel like a nobody and a nothing.
Yeah.
So I want to be included. It was simple things like I want to be included. I don't want them all to leave to go surfing down the coast and watch them drive past in the car and I'm standing with my surfboard like, oh, what, are you going to pick me up?
Yeah.
They were experiences that I had, and I was like, and the week before, there was a pattern here, week before they took me surfing. So I'm like, I mustn't have been cool enough. I must have said stupid things while I was away. They mustn't have liked me in the water with them. Went down surfing Kira, which back then was like going 3-hour trip. It wasn't. It was like 45 minutes.
Now you're winning. You are 6 times Australian champion, 4 times world champion. I mean, that is a massive, massive achievement. How were you dealing with the successes that you were trying so hard to achieve? What was life like that at that point? What were you feeling? Were you feeling good about yourself? Were you on top of the world, or were you still struggling with some of those demons?
You said it. Now I'm winning. Like it's not winning like we might automatically assume, but in my mind, what does that mean? Now I'm winning. I'm not losing anymore. I'm not powerless. I'm powerful. So I call the shots. No one else calls the shots. So I'm addicted to the winning and I'm addicted to the power. So power, greed and control. I've got some power. I want more of it. I just need to keep this scenario going for as long as I can because I definitely don't want that other feeling I have, which is be a nothing and a nobody, which is not loved.
Which must have been a scary experience in itself because you must have known that there's always someone coming up behind me that could potentially beat me. There's always the possibility that this isn't going to last.
Well, I'll introduce something really quickly, and that is right through the middle of this, if you look at the duality of it, which is the loser and the winner and the powerless and the powerful and the loved and the unloved, right through the middle, I had great friends, I had great coaches, I had great support, I had a great family, I had love of the ocean, I felt incredible in this. So there was almost like this, the real world is what you're immersing yourself, what you're experiencing. But then I've got this world of my mind telling me I'm good or bad. So this is happening around it. So the whole time this is going on, I'm winning because of the support and the love and the connection and being part of a team and great coaches, Dennis Cottrell in the pool, Bill Haylock in Ironman coaching. I sought all these different people. It's later when I met Keith Maitland and he took me down the chiropractic path and he said, oh, it's holistic, mate. Your body falling apart is to do with what you haven't dealt with, and we'll get to that in a sec. So I'm now winning. But the only reason I'm continuing to win is because I'm loved. I am actually looked after. I am part of a great group of people. Like I've got a great power on my side, but then I've got this power struggle, which is tangled in it. Like it's confused in the whole thing. So to answer your question, what happens is I'm now winning. And what happens when I win across the line? I'm the good guy. I sign all the autographs. I love being around. In fact, I'm talking to the cameraman. I've got the camera over my shoulder on the tripod, walking off, helping him carry the gear off the beach. I'm the last to leave. Everyone's going, God, he won the race and he's just such a nice guy, because deep down that's me. But then this other thing I've tried to become to win, it's obscuring everything. It's like filtered through everything. So then I go to the nightclub and the good part of me wants everyone to feel loved like me, wants everyone to be happy, I want everybody to feel great. So I get to the nightclub and it's like, Trevor's at the nightclub. And, we're at this stage, I'd met Michael Jackson and hung out with him. I was on Baywatch and I played myself on Baywatch. I'd met Madonna and spent a whole night hanging out with Madonna and her crew. Played on stage with John Farnham and the Beach Boys, and we had this crazy experience on the front cover of this and the front cover of that. And so I had that version of me was on this ride, this starry ride.
And did you believe everything that was presented to the world on the covers of magazines and on TV? Did you believe that was you, or did you know?
I was mostly lost in that belief. I was mostly, the people around me were trying to keep me grounded, and particularly my first wife, who was Jackie, who I was married to at 19. She was trying to tell me the whole time, which eventually, and her and I laugh about it, was I had to get rid of her because she's trying to remind me of who I really am, you know? And so I'm not unimpeded to be this great person. But it was exactly the same time when I didn't want to be that anymore as well, you know? And so I met my wife, Jo, I've been with for nearly 30 years, you know? And it was crazy because at the same time that I didn't want to be this anymore, because it's like 7 years through this process of being the guy, 8 years through the process, I was also tangled so much in all the habits and behaviors of a guy that was lost in that world. So I was never a drug taker. I never was into drugs. But, you know, have a party afterwards and women, you know, parties, drink cards, fame, adulation, being the leader of the pack, you know, being attracted, you know, having the prettiest girl in the town be attracted to you or in the nightclub or whatever, all fed that original little demon inside of me that felt like I was the opposite. The prettiest girl didn't like me. The prettiest girl liked someone else, you know, and the false reality that means anything, you know. So the prettiest girl likes you, you've got great, you know, value in the world or whatever. It's like a form of exchange, you know. It's money, you know, like you're liked by the pretty people or the good looking people. So I had spent enough time locked in that place where I lost myself in that, and I believed that was the truth.